Graham, welcome to Radioacktiva Colombia, man. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Well, it is an honor, man, and it's your first time in Colombia. I guess it's fair to ask a very typical question.
Go on, then.
How it's like being in Colombia for the first time? Any expectations on our country or the
What's
public?
What's it like? I have no idea what it was going to be like. And we got here late last night, and I went to my room, and it's like the interior of a little castle. And I've been looking out the window today at everything going on.
Okay, yeah, many things going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys are you just released a new record after 8 years. How was it like being back together in the studio?
It was fine. We were, we worked hard, and I don't know what it was like. I can't really remember. This year's gone so fast, and I know it was only not very long ago. But we kind of just slot in. We just do what we do what we do. We all have our roles in the band, and we deal with the music that we have to deal with, and we make our way through the chord progressions, and we try to make it sound nice. But Damon had written a lot of songs, and a lot of them were very easy to sort of get into and form structures and get in there musically and play the guitar with, and there was kind of quite a lot of rich, nice, harmonically kind of nice stuff, so I got to do some pretty kind of playing.
Yeah, but you have, from my perspective at least, I am not a musician, you have a very interesting or maybe may we call it different approach to the guitar. You're not the conventional guitar player we've listened to in whatever band. So I've always it always caught my attention, because if we listen to previous Blur albums like 13, or we go into this record, well, the guitar, it's always different.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
It's just because I'm not very technical. I sort of have always approached the guitar like I would approach any other instrument, or even painting, really. It's sort of I didn't have an awful lot of time to sit and learn scales and become good like that, and technical like a lot of. But then I've never really liked that kind of playing, so I do what I can to within a song to help that song communicate whatever the song has got to communicate, and that's my job. I'm not going to have 16 bars in the middle where I just go, because it wouldn't really be a Blur thing. I have to support or interpret what Damon is trying to say, or the emotional drive of the song. So I play to the song, really, rather than be this kind of really flashy, or not flashy, but very studied, I suppose. I'm more like an action painter, but the guitar.
Well, since you mentioned...
I'm a decent rhythm player, but I just can't do all that lead stuff.
But you're a great guitar player, come on, you gotta know that.
I'm an alright rhythm player.
Since you mentioned painting, well, you did the art for 13, the album cover. I understand it's called The Apprentice.
Yeah.
What were you trying to communicate then with that art for that record?
I thought it just looked like, what's his name out of that film? It's Christian Slater. I just thought it looked like him.
If we go from songs like Russian Strings to Barbaric to St. Charles Square, it's like 3 different Blur things we've heard through the different eras the band has developed. And it caught my attention also because it's since 8 years passed, and all of a sudden we have this record that has a little bit of everything that Blur has done. I wanted to know a bit more about that.
Okay. You better ask somebody who knows. Well, actually, yeah, because there's Goodbye Albert, which is kind of very early, like 92. I was trying out some stuff that I was doing back then with the lead playing, picking up on the fifths or the thirds of the chords a lot with the lead to sort of create something pretty. But I suppose I don't see it as going back in time and revisiting, actually, because I suppose I have different preoccupations as a guitar player now. So I'm I was using a different type of guitar, more tremolo arm, more sort of reverbs, more echoes and delays. So trying to, and actually using a lot of sustainer pickup in my Manson guitar. And so it's kind of a very different approach to what I've done before in Blur. I play the Manson tonight as well. It's a bright green guitar. I play a couple of green guitars, but the green ones can do that thing where a note can go on forever. So there's a lot of experimentation with that, and a lot of had this feel of it being Xeroxed. So the earlier takes were still audible.
Okay.
So I like that idea that it's like an onion. Each song is like an onion with quite translucent skin. And you can see a lot.
Okay.
There's a lot of depth. But in doing that, I had to keep out of the way because there's a lot of keyboards. So I think a lot of the songs were written on keyboard. So there's the Wurlitzers and the electric pianos and the synthetic strings and all of this sort of thing. But real strings as well and real brass. So yeah, it's a tricky one to mix. There's a lot happening.
But that's a great perspective. I've never heard that in music, like the whole onion thing where you can see through it, because I'm guessing once you're mixing a record, you go through all those layers to mix it, right?
It's the hardest thing, mixing. It was really hard to mix.
You're playing around the world, you're doing stadiums and all that, but of course you needed to have a record. You didn't want it to do like a melancholic tour
I
or
wouldn't
whatever.
mind it.
What happened first? You decided to do the record, or you wanted to tour?
No, we thought, well, let's do some gigs. Yeah, we'd really like to do some gigs. And it's like, well, we've never really done gigs like that without something new to play. It's kind of boring. It's fine, when it was a sort of anniversary of Modern Life is Rubbish to maybe do a few of those songs and everything, but maybe that wasn't good enough reason. So we thought, well, let's knock something together in a few weeks. So and that's what we did. It was very close, we recorded it very quick. It was 6 weeks or something, then we mastered it, and then we started doing shows immediately. Well, we tried to rehearse a little bit, and so it was all not rushed. I mean, it was just we managed to perfectly time it. I don't know how we did it,
but it doesn't sound like like a rushed record. You cannot fool me and tell me we had it ready for 6 months before its release or whatever, because it has all those different things like Barbaric and Charles Square.
Yeah.
You go from one point to another in the same record.
Yeah, well, I think we're showing some influences. There's a sort of influence for me anyway, there's influences of Scary Monsters, and then there's influence, which has always been there actually, because the guitar sound in St. Charles Square is very reminiscent of Stereotypes. The Stereotypes guitar sound just doesn't have a chorus pedal on. So it is bringing back a bit of that old thing, but yeah. And I thought Barbaric would be a good disco song. I'm trying to play a disco guitar thing on that, like Chic.
Okay. Like a Nile Rodgers kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're all kind of different, and I really wanted to get weird, like weirdo in a kind of an 80s way on some of the guitar with using wobbly effects.
Okay.
Like in Goodbye Albert, but also just play some beautiful acoustic guitar as well, like the Faraway Island. Tried to get a sense of a kind of creaky wood, with the acoustic guitar.
Okay, just help me through this, since I am not a musician. It's interesting because it seems like even though if you go through Blur discography, you always find a different record after another, like trying different things always, experimenting, of course. But for this record, from what I'm understanding, you're taking lots of element from previous works and trying something, right?
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit, but with a little more maturity, I think. I think I was using a different guitars, like I said, with tremolo arms and all of that, and really not feeling that it's good enough to play the right notes, but to have real feeling behind whatever is there, whatever I play. So I could play the same thing correctly, 50 times, but the one time it was kind of played right. I suppose you can only get fussy like that when you become older as a man, because you get kind of more particular. I'm talking about men in this case, because women might or may not do that as well. But I know from my own experience that the older I get, the more particular and kind of OCD I get about everything. So that can be a bit nightmarish. So yeah, I mean, it was just important for me that the guitars were absolutely right and absolutely sitting alongside the keyboards in the correct way, having their own thing, and the keyboard having their own thing, and tons of overdubs with backing vocals.
Okay, I think I read maybe on NME that lots of the songs we have on this record actually come from some demos that Damon had, and you guys, you both worked together initially on this before developing the whole record?
No, not really. I think he wrote some bits where he was out on tour, and with Gorillaz and things like that. I think he always had a setup that he had, and he was making demos on that, and making demos like he always does on iPad.
Oh.
And these are the things we looked at. There was, I don't know, maybe 20 or something. I don't know, there was quite a few.
Okay. Well, it's probably very interesting just to add your style to the demos and construct something from that particular guitar sound that you have, or at least I see it that way. I hear it that way.
I mean, they sound very different from the demos.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Graham Coxon here from the band Blur, and you're listening to Radioacktiva, the rock planet.